When it comes to selling a house, one of the biggest things that you can focus on is curb appeal, because it's going to be your first impressions of the property. Whether a buyer finds it on Zillow or Realtor.com, or they just see a for sale sign as they're driving through your neighborhood, they're going to see the outside of the house most of the time before they see any of the inside. So it's really important to make sure the outside of the house is warm and inviting and actually pulls them into clicking on that link or asking the real estate agent about that house. And today we're going over a couple ways that you can help increase your curb appeal to help more buyers see themselves in your house. My name is Lowe. I'm with United Real Estate Louisville, and if this is your first time on my channel, consider subscribing as well as click that bell notification so you never miss a new video. Also, if you get something out of this video, please give me a like because it really helps me out. Now, the first thing we actually want to do is remove any potential eyesores of the property. Now, this could be just a dead tree or a dead bush. It could be a broken down truck in the front yard or gutters and shutters. They have a tendency to fall off the house, and we want to make sure that they are secured on the house because buyers always ask, is that going to be fixed? Is that going to be removed? Is that tree going to be removed before we close? I don't want to have to deal with taking down a tree. I don't want to have to deal with taking out a dead bush and replacing it. Even though they're not necessarily always, big things like that, a lot of buyers still start to just make a list of things they think need done with the property. So having it move-in ready is a big deal and really helps buyers out when it comes to looking at the house. The second thing you want to focus on is the landscape. Now, I'm not saying rip everything out and start completely over. What I am saying is make sure that what's there, it looks like it's been maintained. People don't want to come in and take care of a jungle. So, cut back the bushes, cut the grass, maybe a fresh layer of mulch, weed the flower beds, different things like that can have a really big impact on how that house looks from the street view. The second thing that I'll tell you is if you do have a bunch of trees in your front yard or you live in a shady area with a bunch of trees, one of the things that I like to tell people to do is consider doing, if you are already doing mulch, I'm not saying if you just did mulch, redo it, but if you are doing mulch anyway, go with something that's kind of lighter. Sometimes the black mulch in a shady area just makes the house feel like it's kind of just dingy and dark. And so putting down cedar mulch or something that's a little bit lighter can have a really big impact on making that house look like it's been maintained and doesn't just look so dark and dingy. Now, the third thing that we can do is power wash things. Now, we want to focus on just making sure the house looks clean as well as the stuff surrounding the house. So if you have an aggregate driveway that hasn't been stained in a couple years, you might go ahead and power wash it and restain it. Stuff like siding on houses, gutters and shutters have a tendency to kind of just collect some dirt here and there. So it's really important to go ahead and clean them off with power washer. That way you have just a fresh canvas and buyers can really see themselves in that house because everything's already done and it just feels like it's move-in ready. Another thing that we like to focus on is the windows as well as the front door. A lot of times windows have paint around the edges and then the front door is always painted a color as well. It's really important to go ahead and make sure that that paint looks like it's fresh and it was recently done. It doesn't necessarily have to look brand new, but make sure that it doesn't, it's not chipping or falling off, especially around the doorway. A lot of times that paint starts to chip after a couple of years and it needs redone every couple of years. So before you list it, make sure that, paint is really cheap. Hiring somebody to do it tends to not be super expensive. So go ahead and just touch up the paint so that way it looks really presentable from the street view. Now that we removed eyesores, we've got the landscaping cleaned up. We cleaned up the house by power washing it, and we also painted potentially a front door and the windowsills if they needed it. The last thing that we want to do is we want to focus on adding the little touches. Now, this could be anything from just a welcome mat, as well as, if you do have a front porch, you might consider getting some rocking chairs or renting some rocking chairs just to put on there so that way buyers can see themselves, sitting on your front porch, watching the traffic go by. Different things like that can have a big impact of not only how it looks from the curb, but also as far as how a buyer feels about the property because they like the fact, there's a front porch with rocking chairs on it. Different things like that can have a big impact. So it's really important to think about that from a buyer's perspective. If you made it to this point in the video, I really appreciate you sticking around. I do have a couple things for you before I let you go. Down below, you're gonna find my pre-listing checklist. This is just a checklist for sellers. If you are looking at selling your house, getting it ready for market, different things that you should do before you actually list it. The second thing is I have a seller's guide. Now, my seller's guide goes over the entire process of selling from start to finish, and it just kind of gives you an overview of the process. And it's really important to understand the process before you start to sell your house. So make sure you grab those. They're completely free. Click that link. It just takes to my website where you can download them. Once again, I really appreciate you sticking around. My name is Lowe. I'm with United Real Estate Louisville. And if you are looking at selling your house here in Louisville, give me a call. I've got my phone number down below. I'd love to sit down and talk to you about it. Also, make sure you click that subscribe button as well as bell notification so you don't miss a new video, and click that like button if you got something out of this. Really appreciate it.